bore da, and I trust that you all had an enjoyable bank holiday weekend. For the next 4 days of this week, I'd like to share with you something about 4 Welsh politicians who have now died, great men, and see what we can learn from them. The first one I want us to consider is David Lloyd George. Some have called him the most famous Welshman ever born in Manchester. However, it was David Lloyd George's Welshness that so steered his career and established him as one of the most influential British politicians of the modern era, second only to Winston Churchill. Lloyd George was born on the 17th of January 1863. David's father William, a schoolmaster, died a year after he was born, and his mother took her 2 children to live with her brother in Llanymstynddwy in Carnarvonshire, and he was brought up in a Welsh-speaking non-conformist family. Lloyd George joined the local Liberal Party and became an active member. A keen supporter of land reform, Lloyd George was selected as the Liberal candidate for Carnarvon in 1890. Later that year, after winning a local by-election by a landslide of 18 votes, at the tender age of 27, Lloyd George became the youngest member in the House of Commons. Lloyd George now had a platform from which he could launch his radical reforms. Determined he was to lift the shadow of the workhouse from the homes of the poor. He sought to achieve this by guaranteeing an income to people who were too old to work. Lloyd George's Old Age Pension Act provided between 1 and 5 shillings per week to people over 70 years of age. His next major reform was the 1911 National Insurance Act. This provided British workers with insurance against illness and unemployment. All wage earners had to join his health scheme, in which each worker made a weekly contribution, with both the employer and state adding an amount. In return for these payments, free medical attention and medicines were made available, as well as a guaranteed 7 shillings per week unemployment benefit. As Christians, Lloyd Jones's legacy reminds us that we too have a God-given responsibility to help those who are less fortunate than ourselves in society. Whatever political persuasion we may belong to this morning, we cannot escape the biblical fact that the gospel has social implications. Isaiah 1:17 is absolutely clear. It says, "Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the cause of the widow." One thing that Luke highlights about the early church in the book of Acts is that they shared all that they had with those in need. Therefore, as 21st century Christians, we should share what we have with those in need. Listen to the instructions of the Apostle Paul to Christians at Ephesus, Ephesians 4:28. He says, "Use your hands for good hard work, and then give generously to others in need." One of the main things that Jesus taught us was that we are to care and share with each other. Care for and share with each other. Do you remember the verse in Matthew 7:12 where Jesus gives us this instructions? Do for others what you want them to do for you. Listen to the instructions of the prophet Micah, Micah 6 and 8. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. Yes, Lloyd George was a man far from perfect. However, to his credit, he did seek to act justly, and we can thank him this morning for the welfare state. May God help us as Christians to be considerate of those who are often less fortunate than ourselves through no fault of their own. Listen again to the words of the Lord. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the cause of the widow. So thank God this morning for Lloyd George and the legacy he has left us. And may God help us to have something of his heart of compassion towards those less fortunate. God bless you. Have a great day. Bob Edith.